And there were a lot of different messages throughout the journey in India, but the primary one was a sense from Jesus that you are supported.
Mm.
You know, no matter what occurs, no matter what you decide, you're supported.
Welcome to the Supernatural Souls Podcast. I'm Jenna, your host. I'm also a former Global Vice President for Whole Foods Market and the founder of Star Family Wisdom, a modern-day mystery school for your spiritual and cosmic evolution. On this podcast, we explore the lives, teachings, and energies of a very specific group of supernatural souls. In this group, we include Jesus Christ and Mother Mary from the Christian tradition, and also Saint Sri Kaleshwar and Shirdi Sai Baba from India. Here we discover a body of knowledge and wisdom that transcends religion, uniting the East and West. Together we'll discuss the practices that were once employed by these ancient masters to embody the high supernatural abilities that were once considered magic. And we'll welcome the energy, love, and wisdom of these supernatural souls into our lives. So as we explore the lives and wisdom of these supernatural souls and their students, may we all remember ourselves as supernatural souls and embody the wisdom and teachings of the many masters who have walked before us. Hey, Chris, it's so good to be here with you. Welcome.
Hello. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. So glad to be here.
So excited to chat with you. Chris Bryant is with us today, also known as Ishwarananda. We'll talk about your spiritual name and how that came to be as we get into the convo. But we're recording this at the end of 2023, and we were just talking about lessons learned from this year and all of the ways we create too much structure and get out of balance and all of those things. And we were just talking about a New Year's resolution related to balance and asking the universe, Divine Mother, Divine Father to help us find that perfect balance.
It can be so elusive sometimes, I feel.
Yeah.
We get so busy, but it's essential. It's essential to have a sense of balance as we walk forward within the world these days.
Yeah. And you've been finding that on your journey. You are a student who did not meet Sri Kaleshwar. You and I met in the Divine Lineage. And I'm excited to talk to you because you're one of the generation like me who came after his time on Earth. And so you've come to the lineage through some interesting experiences and life lessons, life experiences as we all have. And that sense of finding balance on the path is really interesting to talk to you about, because you've got a lot going on. Like you're in school, you're studying these advanced yogic practices, and I'm curious how that, I guess, evolution has occurred for you from this place of really being out of balance in a more extreme way, for a while in your life, to then having the divine intervention that started to bring you a greater sense of that balance and this journey to wholeness. So what's your origin story? How'd you get into this? And if you're willing to share, about the Ishwarananda from the past or Chris from the past before you became Ishwarananda, how did that Chris find this journey?
Oh, wow. First of all, that's articulated very well. Those are two very big questions. I think the origin story definitely did begin from a place of like extreme imbalance, it was pain that brought me to this path. It was seeking a sense of relief and clarity and serenity that brought me to these practices, these japa practices. And I was was working with a trauma therapist at the time, and he kind of presented this foreign practice of connecting with the elements, and I'd stick my thumb in the earth and start chanting. And I had no experience at all with japa of this nature. I had been a yoga instructor for I think a year or so at the time, but I was in a place of transition to where I was kind of where things seemed to be like breaking and in destruction all around me. And I needed some footing, like I needed some relief, I needed some guidance. And he gave me these practices, and I was like, I have no idea what this is, but I trust you.
Mm.
If you say it works for you, then I'll try it. And I really did dive into the japa as if my life depended on it. Like it was my last ditch effort of a way out or a place of peace. And it really took a long time before I felt like I felt like I was spinning my wheels. Like I didn't really feel traction until about 6 months in. But then once I felt a little bit of a rhythm and the tires started to kind of grab the road, I was so I was just it just seemed like everything in my life started to really align
Mm.
in ways that were like I had no experience with that level of alignment,
Mm.
you know?
And
And
that
so
can
I
be a
think,
really like startling and fun experience when that happens.
oh, totally, totally. It was completely new. It was completely foreign.
Yeah.
Life became this big adventure of like, I wasn't living in like a normal level of like faith and what was occurring. It was like a complete and utter surrender to what was occurring around me because, what was occurring, I had no framework for those types of experiences, that type of alignment, those types of connections I was making with
Like
people. And
synchronicities and these
yeah,
miraculous kind of moments of
beautiful
alignment.
word.
Yeah.
Yeah. Synchronicities is a great way to describe that. And also, I think at the time when I started with these japa, I was also introduced to another practitioner who was a devotee of the Siddha yoga path of Swami Baba Muktananda. And she had spent 20 years or so in that path. She had been to many Shaktipat intensives with Guru Mai. And I was at a phase in my yogic journey where I wasn't satisfied with what the Western world was offering me in terms of yoga, and I wanted more. I wanted depth.
Mm.
I wanted more than just asana and pranayama. I knew there was more to it. And she introduced me to the practice of chanting the Guru Gita.
Mm.
And that was another amplifying, like, hang on to your seatbelt because things are about to change. They're going to change fast.
And you did that practice for a really extended period of time. Like you kind of
Yeah.
chose that as this really transformational process and dedicated, like really dedicated yourself. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, and I'm still in the process. I'm still in dedication to that daily sadhana. It when I was first introduced to the Guru Gita, which is just a brief description of what it is. It's the Guru Gita stands for it's a Sanskrit chant that stands for the Song of God, and it's 182 stanzas. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour to chant, and then 15 minutes of a silent meditation. And it really required for me at that time something extreme to bring my mind into a state of stillness. But the very first time I sat for the Gita, I touched a level of stillness I had never known before.
Yeah.
I didn't know it existed. I didn't like it was just kind of this like, oh my God, this is everything I've been looking for. I'm ready to devote my life to this thing because there was this yearning for comprehension of what liberation was for so
Mm.
long. Because at the time when tragedy was occurring all around me, I just wanted, I wanted out of the suffering of the planet. Like I wanted to escape it. And the only way out seemed to be through comprehension of what liberate this foreign, what is enlightenment? I have no idea what this thing. And so the Gita Gita, it seemed to be a path to stillness that was everything I had been looking for. And so I sat I would drive to this woman's house. Her name is Katie West, and I have such love for this woman and all she did to really save my life at a chapter that I was in need. And I would go to her home, which was basically an ashram that she would call Dove Light, and I would go once a month to chant the Gita. And I think I did that 3 months or 4 months in a row, and then it was like, I need more. I want to sit for this daily, and at that time I was struggling. I am a recovering addict, and so at that time my disease was not my disease was out of control, and prayer seemed to be the only thing to be the only refuge. And in 2019, January 26th, I sat for the Guru Gita daily and still have continued to sit for this practice for over 1,000 consecutive days now. And yeah, it's really taught me more than any book could ever teach me. It's taught me more than any teacher could ever teach me. The stillness became my teacher.
I love
silence. And so that's kept me coming back,
Wow, I think that's just incredible, Ishwarananda. The idea of these practices, prayer, dedicating ourselves for an hour, whatever it is a day, can save our lives. And I think it's also worth just pausing and reflecting and appreciating you, for the journey you've been on, because I too struggled with substances for a long time in my life, and I didn't have tools. I didn't have tools to find inner peace and to get rid of stress and anxiety and so the world we get raised in, right? Like, what do you have? You have substances, and that's what we get taught. And I think so many people have been there, have struggled with that, and we don't talk enough about that. Like, we don't talk enough about how we have all these other tools at our disposal, and also the level of pain and darkness that's been possible on this planet, and that so many people have found themselves in. That's a hard place to get out of. That is a hard place to get out of. And I think I'm just acknowledging and appreciating your journey and your drive to take whatever steps would help you, even if you weren't sure. I think it's just a beautiful journey, and I'm just grateful that you're sharing it with others, because we talk so much about the light and the love and the positive aspects of spirituality. We don't talk about how dark it gets when we're facing our shadow.
There's something really hopeful when you hear someone who shares about, yes, at one time I was completely lost in anguish, but I found a way out, and that's possible for anyone, I feel. But yeah, there seem to be more and more kind of swimming in this place of anguish, of fear, and it's like, I don't know how to get out. And that's why I have so much passion for working at the detox center that I work at. It's such a privilege to be able to kneel down and meet people where they're at, and say, I've been there too. I've been there too. You're not alone. When the world has met you with judgment or shame or exile, let me be someone to meet you with compassion.
Everyone deserves that.
I agree. Yeah, everyone was born worthy of it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so,
Mm,
yeah, it moves me. It just moves me to no end.
me too. And what I think is so moving about what you just articulated is like that's Christ consciousness. Like we are
Amen.
practicing in a lineage that, is of the Christ lineage specifically.
Right,
And that
right.
is what it's about. It's about
Yeah.
seeing the level of darkness and illusion that is
Mm-hmm.
possible and very present on this planet, and
Present.
meeting it with like the deepest levels of compassion and forgiveness
Right.
and empathy and your
Reverence.
journey and reverence, and your journey is a
Yeah.
testament to that and a great example of that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The path to forgiveness, I feel like really was what he stood for, you know, and that, and that has been a big part of my learning lately is how to forgive,
Mm,
you know?
yeah.
What do we do in places of resentment when pain was offered to us that was not we didn't deserve?
Right.
And how do we meet that with love instead of like, this forceful, angry, you know. And that's also not to say that like anger is to be repressed either. Anger is also
Totally.
sacred, so sacred. And so
Yeah. And that
it's an
forgiveness process also then turns back on ourselves. It's like
right.
because of this world and like all the
Yeah.
stuff we get caught up in, and the darkness we get caught up in. It's very easy to then look at, your own life and actions and,
Yes.
all the things that have played out for yourself and judge yourself. And
Uh-huh.
and so that becomes a really interesting part of the journey of not only forgiving outwardly, but then really like finding love for ourselves, even including all that stuff we engaged in, or that we would we
Right,
wouldn't
right, right.
do now. It's loving that and
Uh-huh.
forgiving it. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when it's hardest too. It's most important to offer ourselves that forgiveness and love when we least feel the desire to. And so
Mhm.
finding those corners are it's so liberating when you meet those aspects of our psyche and offer love, that
Yeah.
wholeness that can blossom from it.
Yeah. And you're
Never a
not
dull moment.
yeah, right. There's never a dull moment in being human. That's for sure. Oh my goodness. And this journey for you has evolved into you now pursuing a path of education where you can take this practice of supporting others and in finding
Yeah.
their healing and wholeness, and and I guess making that into a more professional future for yourself. So I'm
Mhm.
curious about how that is progressing for you, and anything you could share that, yeah, just helps highlight
Yeah.
how you found that path and what that's about. And I think too, there's also when we find this spiritual path and we are very, very, very much dedicated to it and very much dedicated to service, it can also get a little confusing because maybe not everyone's meant to be like a one-on-one, energy healer or this or that. Like there's
Right.
all of these different ways we can be
Right.
of divine service in the world. And I think you're finding a cool path.
So that's a really intricate question because my mind goes in a lot of different directions, and you asked me what led to me coming back to school because it 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 kind of found me. So when I moved from Texas to California, I had to transition to another sponsor in my recovery program, and that sponsor that I found, he was a therapist, and he's an alumni of the school that I'm going to. And so every time I would process steps with him, we would do so much work in an hour that I felt like I owed him money. And I was just like, I want to be able to help at that magnitude. I want that capacity. And, I want to enhance what I can offer. And so when I learned that he was going to a Baptist university, initially I was like, I don't want any part in that. I don't want, no, thank you. Because a lot of my journey, a lot of my story is that my disease of addiction spawned from religious trauma. I was raised Catholic, and there was a lot of resentment in the realm of Christianity. And so, long story short, I had to go to India to step back and away from my life to come to the decision: am I committing 2.5 years of my life, well, the rest of my life, to this path, or not? And there are a lot of different messages throughout the journey in India, but the primary one was a sense from Jesus that you are supported. You know, no matter what occurs, no matter what you decide, you're supported. And so the decision to come and go to this Baptist university became a decision of me walking a path of healing of my own wounds, of my own, where are my prejudices? Why are they there? How can I heal that? And it almost takes my breath away to even reflect upon. Like, I've only been in school for 13 weeks, but the depth and the intricacy and the growth have been unspeakable. How it's taking me into the corners of how my arrogance of thinking I know better has created separation from another. How can I continuously, on a daily basis, forgive my own ignorance and meet anyone, no matter where they are in their spiritual journey, exactly where they're at? I see you. We are brothers in Christ. It is, we have a different type or quality of path, but we're still all the same in our essence. And how can I find union rather than separation?
Yeah.
And this, like,
Wow.
and so it's like my life these past 13 weeks has not even been about becoming a therapist. I guess that's important, and that's, the goal and all, but like, there's been so much more to it than just that.
I think that's incredible. I think that is
Yeah.
such an incredible reflection that you're getting in this experience, like this incredible opportunity. Like we end up on this journey, and
Right.
it's like we think about the destination, and then all of a sudden we're also,
Like,
yeah,
bam.
yeah, and then we're finding our own healing, and then feeling this sense of separation from others because of that, and then we have to like work through that. And I think it's incredible that you've had this experience in school, like being able to do that, and then also in the process, yeah, healing some of those old wounds related to religion and Christianity in particular. And what an interesting evolution to then find yourself, reconnecting, I guess, or maybe for the first time truly connecting
Really connecting,
with,
right?
yeah, with Jesus, that energy, Christ consciousness, and uh,
Yeah.
just what an interesting kind of full circle
Uh-huh.
experience.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Very well interpreted. Thank you for
Yeah.
how perceptive you are in that.
Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing so openly, um
Yeah. Happy to.
and also talking about that, trauma related to religion. You know, there's been so much distortion that has happened on this planet related to
Of
religion that has just caused, yeah, so much, so
course.
much,
Yeah.
yeah, stuff we
Yeah.
did not want to experience. And
Uh,
um, I think it's brave to talk about that and to speak out, about religion or organized religions, having
mhm,
caused that in some cases, and how we heal from
mhm,
that.
right.
Um, you mentioned the 12 steps when we talked
Mhm,
last, and
mhm,
how
mhm. Oh, yeah.
how that, people have heard of that, but like I don't think
Right.
people really
Mhm.
know, what that's about, and how that like was really this bridge back to God, to back to finding, this greater power, this greater sense of support. I want to go back to the India trip and talk a little more about that, but maybe you can describe how the 12 steps are a framework for anyone, who is in the darkness and finding their way out.
Yeah. You are great at asking these big questions, but my mind goes into a lot of different, how do I make a complex answer simple? Because you can one can look at the 12 steps from many different levels of frequency. There's a lot of yogic wisdom within the 12 steps. Um, for instance, like santosha, contentment, is directly in the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just acceptance in its essence. And within the 12 steps, an important key foundation in my recovery program is to be of service. Selflessness is so essential in working a healthy program. And this is all my opinion, but because selfishness is a part of our disease by
Mm,
the 12-step vernacular.
yeah.
And then is also, you can see statements like that within yogic lore as well. Ego, pride, jealousy, anger.
Yeah.
And so, again, I'm trying to keep it simple. My mind wants to get into the complexities. 12 steps brought me to a room of people in a way where I could share about a higher power and not feel like this is right and this is wrong.
Mm,
This is how we speak of it here, and this is how we don't speak of it here. In the rooms of NA, Narcotics Anonymous, or Alcoholics Anonymous, your higher power is the higher power of your own understanding.
mm.
That peace has healed me and immensely
That's
over my
huge.
journey. And having the steps go, it's 12 steps, it's not 12 leaps. When I first got clean, I wanted to be perfect, like I wanted to fix everything in this irrational way. And the 12 steps bring me step by step to look at the layers of what makes me who I am,
Mm,
and it helped me understand the nature of my disease.
mm,
It helped me understand that I'm not a bad person. I suffer from a disease for which there is no known cure. And that was a very healing idea too, because the church wanted, I was banished. I was not welcome. Just, I was not met with the love that I needed, or the compassion I needed, or the forgiveness I needed. Narcotics Anonymous gave me everything that the church was claims to live by.
yeah.
And I'm not here to say that all churches are bad or anything, but the the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous created an atmosphere for me to heal
Mm,
my wound with a higher power, and heal a connection, heal the separation. And I believe that it's a path to liberation as well. because once you finish the 12 steps, you go back and you do it again. You continue, like, this is a life's work. You never come to a place of arrival. You never come to a place of, all right, I'm cured. Every time you go through the steps, you find a layer deeper. You find, you know, in the terminology that it uses, you identify character defects and you choose spiritual principles.
Mhm.
To each character defect, there's a spiritual principle that is an antidote. And integrity was a very crucial one for me because self-deception is also a part of our disease. I was great at misleading myself or rationalizing behavior, all these intricate imaginations of
Yeah.
this is so
And that can spiral out of control so quickly when
boy,
yeah, our
can
ego gets involved, and then there's selfishness and all that stuff that leads to that negative spiral.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was able to meet my negativity with compassion and kind of accept, like, hey, these are ways you used to behave. Would you like to try something different? You don't have to. These are all suggestions.
Yeah.
You choose to work whatever program you want to work. I was just so accustomed at a young age to be forced to do this is how it's done. You need to do it this way. Anything other than, you're banished. I needed a different approach. I needed something different to help me heal.
And it sounds like
And
this is, you know, what feels different, I guess, about this approach is that there isn't all of that orthodoxy and
yeah,
rules and regulations and stuff
right.
around your higher power or how you
Mm,
access it or what you're supposed to do or not supposed to do, which comes with other organizations. It feels like this really was an experience of total acceptance with the right guardrails that
right,
helped
right.
you connect the dots yourself on
Hmm.
how to start shifting behavioral patterns, how to start shifting your worldview, how to start shifting
Hmm.
how you meet those parts of yourself that are quote unquote defective, that we want to evolve. Like it sounds like a very compassionate approach to helping someone connect those dots themselves in the way that feels right for them.
Well put. Well put.
Cool.
It's a path of transformation. Mhm.
Yeah. I have a friend
I'm
who has been part of NA for years now, and I I'm so grateful to have learned about it through this friend and to now be deepening my understanding of it through our
mm,
friendship and
mm,
just seeing her transformation. Wow. Like I believe it saved
right.
her life too. Absolutely.
Right.
100%.
There there's something in that approach that that's so practical.
Yeah.
There was something there like, and granted, like, there was a lot of wisdom in the japa of this lineage. There's a lot of wisdom in the Guru Gita, but I was needing a practicality of how do I apply this in the
Right.
daily day to day. Like,
Right.
I can't be in a, I can't be in a state of meditation throughout the day. I can't. I mean, it's possible. I'm not at that stage, but you know, at where I was at, I needed some practicality
Yeah. Yeah.
and
And this
the
world's
silence.
complex and
Oh,
and and all of the stuff, in our civilization is in some way, or a lot of it is serving to kind of pull us back into those negative behavioral patterns or negative programming. And so yeah, like there is something I think so important about finding, in addition to spiritual lineages like the one we're connected in, there's also this incredible value of finding other very practical, psychological and spiritual approaches to
right,
daily
right,
living, daily
right.
behavior, and shifting those patterns over time. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in my early stages, when I started chanting the Gita on a regular basis, I had this idea. There was a tension in me that was like, I thought I had to live a life of renunciation
Mm,
to find development.
right.
And in that like renunciation, it created this like spiritual bypassing
Yeah.
that it's like no negativity. Like I don't know what was going on in my head, but there was something about going on the power journey to India where Sri Kaleshwar, Divine Mother at Penakunda really kind of sat me down and said, look, you don't have permission to live a life of renunciation.
Mm,
You've done that before in past lives. This life is your duty is to interact here. And and that brought so much peace and
mm,
clarity because I was like, all right, I need to find a way to just get away from the world. I can't do the world
yeah.
and escape from the
Yeah.
things. And so Baba really just held my hand and was like, look, you can't stay here. You can come here once or twice a year to rejuvenate.
Yeah.
Your work is in the world.
Yeah.
And that was so reassuring to like accept and relax into my dharma.
I think that's awesome. I think that that's like also a harder path, like I've reflected on this a bit this year as well, that um it becomes very easy to engage in spiritual bypassing, and
Amen.
this world needs awakened, enlightened people deeply engaging with the darkness.
Engaged.
And we're not to run away from it. We're supposed to heal ourselves, but then go back and help the others, who need out, or even in the process, stay connected, to the world around us. It's yeah, it is the work right now, I think, that so many of us are here to do. And it's harder to do that. It's harder to heal while you're living life in the world, but it's also important. So I applaud you for that. um, you
Thank you. And I
mentioned you
say same
mentioned
to you. I applaud you as
Oh,
well.
thank you. Thank you. Um, you mentioned an experience with Jesus when you were in India, and this kind of transmission message that, like, you're accepted no matter what. But what was that like? Where did that happen?
um, it wasn't only at one location. It was kind of at there were different stages in different places.
Mm,
But the one that comes to mind was when we went to the caves, the Vashishta caves, and I believe it was Vashishta's wife who had a cave that was just up the way from his cave, and that was a cave that Jesus was fond of meditating. And to sit in that cave, it is still hard to speak about. I don't always feel permission to speak of it, but yeah, just to be in that depth of stillness. I feel um it just brings me to a place like it's ineffable. I don't know how to describe, because with let's see if this metaphor can illustrate it. Uh, like when I sit for the Gita and I'm alone in my room, let's say it helps me come to a depth of like 50 feet into the ocean of consciousness. When I was at that cave, I felt like I dropped into a depth of like 2,000 feet.
mm,
Time, time wasn't present. Uh, I, and and I brought my doubt. I brought my doubt into that level of depth, and I felt the supportive presence. I, I kind of, I kind of felt a sense. It wasn't an actual. I felt whatever the feeling is when somebody puts their hand on your shoulder,
yeah.
and they give you this sense of like you're supported, regardless of whatever is chosen. Do it with fearlessness.
Mm,
And after that experience in that cave, I will never be the same. I will never. Experience in the physical has taken on a very different quality since that level of reassurance was offered.
Wow. Wow, what a beautiful transcendent moment. Wow. Wow.
um,
I know what you mean, that like there's some moments that you can't really put words to. And some
Ineffable.
transmissions that aren't even like, it's not like words, it's not, it's not
Mm-hmm.
even
Even
an articulate
images.
message, yeah, or image. It's just,
Right.
it's an energy, it's a presence, it's a knowing, it's a,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
A sense, yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, when we come into expressing in words deeper layers of subtlety, words are almost too dense
yeah,
to capture
yep,
those opposite side of things, subtlety.
totally. Well, I think that's why we've had these ancient mystery traditions and initiations that give us these opportunities to experience the divine for
Right.
ourselves, because there is that threshold where words don't do it justice anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And to remember
And that
that state of
almost,
oneness, and that to remember, truly, like at a cellular level, remember our connection with God. It's like we have to have those experiences. You can't read it, you can't hear it, it's like you have to feel it and be it. Yeah.
yeah. Like even in that statement, our connection with God, it's like a duality in that
Right.
our connection with God. Like the only way to express that effectively, I feel like I would need like a singing bowl to just hit or just own, like closer we get to expressing oneness, the more that words are just these kind of
Yeah.
clunky
Totally.
things.
We were just
Yeah.
talking, David actually talked about that in a Sat song last week, where
Mm.
it's this idea of the mind takes us into separation, right? Divine
Right, right,
love
right, right,
is
right,
that
right,
state
right.
of oneness, and you feel that, you express
Yeah.
it, you channel it, not from the
Mm,
mind.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah,
Amen. 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 Yeah. 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 I love how you brought that in because it seems like when I do any type of either sound bowl healings or one-on-one Sai Shakti healing sessions or Reiki, I feel like that ability for the person I'm with to come to a state of no mind or stillness is where that soulful restoration becomes possible.
yeah,
There's so many tools in the Western world that still they don't disengage, they don't still the mind.
yep,
As long as the mind's active, like there's a level of depth in artistry in this level of healing that requires the practitioner to have the ability to still the mind to a state of no activity.
yeah, yeah. I love that you brought that up, because I think that, at least for me on my journey, that was like the first major challenge, was how do I just get this thing under control? How do I just get this
Right.
mind to
Yeah.
one, not think, negative stuff and go down the negative spiral, but then also how do I
Uh-huh.
just turn it off? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
think we talk enough about that sometimes, like just how
Amen.
overactive our minds are and how negative they can be, and
Mm-hmm.
how many thoughts we're having that are thoughts of separation rather than thoughts of
Right.
unity and love. When I started to unpack that, I was I was like, oh my goodness, we have a major problem here. Once I recognized
Yeah.
I need to be able to turn my mind off. How do I
Amen.
do
Yeah.
that? Like, how do I even get
Yeah.
in that deep state?
Yeah.
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 And for you,
And it
the Gita practice was really that, like, anchor for you, it sounds
anchor.
like.
Anchor.
Yeah.
As long as I know that within each 24-hour period, I will return to that state of stillness, I'm willing to do anything with the activity of my day.
Mm.
I know I'll come back to the stillness. I don't care what suffering I'm around.
Mm.
And that is all that I am around at the detox center. It is extreme anguish, extreme grief, extreme hatred towards God or a mud. Like I am in the depths of suffering, and I don't mind it because I know that I'll come back to stillness each day. And so I have the capacity to meet people there and like, hey, did you know? Have you heard about meditation? Yeah.
Let me hit the
You
sound
know,
bowl for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
so, like, what I love about what I do is that I'm kind of like at the gateway, like, I'm kind of at the entrance of people like have no experience with meditation. They try the sound bowl or they do a Reiki with them or I do some modality with them and they're like, oh my God, Chris, I want to know more. I didn't know this state existed. And I'm like, try this practice, try this book, try this. And so I just am meeting people where they're at. And well, it's so exhilarating. I love what I do. Every
I
day is just a blissful miracle. I can't even, I just bow in honor and privilege and for the opportunity to to exist here. I mean,
mm.
it's all I'm just overwhelming gratitude.
Hmm. You are definitely a vessel for miracles. I think that's, one of the beautiful things to reflect on, on this path is, yeah, like once we've gone far enough with our own journey, we can be these vessels for other people's
Mhm.
miracles and we don't even know all the ways that that's happening.
Amen. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I am not the doer. Chris is not the doer. I am like it just occurs, and I'm a part of it. Like I just have this sixth sense where I'm kind of magnetized when somebody might be. I don't know how to describe what occurs in my intuition when I'm at the facility, but I, it's and sometimes it's like just me listening to somebody,
Mhm.
just to hear, like, just to look into their eyes and let them pour out their pain is healing
Yeah. Yeah.
and miraculous.
Totally. Yeah, and
And what's
it can
happening,
be that simple. Yeah, it's like
right? Super
just
simple.
being present with another, since we have so many situations where that's not the case, or so many, settings or communities or organizations where we're not given that opportunity to just share, what's been
He
deeply,
heard.
yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And there's something so healing when somebody shares something that they feel this like, oh my God, I did this thing and I can never be forgiven for this anguish, like whatever the harm that I caused. And I meet them with like, me too. I've done that too. I've been there too. You're not alone. When the world has met them over and over with like, oh, you're too much. I love the opportunity to just kneel down and say, man, I've done some messed up stuff too.
Yeah.
And you're not alone in that. And
Mm.
those two words, those are two of the most healing words that occur in the rooms for me is me too. Because so often we separate ourselves with this like, oh, I am destined to go to heaven. I will not engage with this darkness over here. And so, that creates so much suffering, unnecessary, unnecessary
Totally.
suffering.
Totally. Well, and that just brings us back to that concept of unity, like what you just articulated there, that moment of like, me too. Like I'm with you. I've been there. I
Right,
see you.
right,
Like there's
right.
nothing to hide here, like that is seeing God in
Mm.
another. That
Yes.
is allowing the true
Yes.
reflection of God to start to come through.
Yes.
And like it's that
Ah,
simple. Like I think this is a good um lesson, wisdom, to wrap up on what you mentioned a couple of times throughout our chat. making the complex more simple. And we can, we can make these spiritual journeys and spiritual practices so complex when it's that simple. Like what you articulated about just meeting another with that kind of empathy and love and acceptance. Like you don't have to do any other spiritual practices other than that. And the divine's going to take care of what needs to get taken care of.
Truth.
Yeah.
Truth. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
Take it
we,
out of my hand. I'm not the doer.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. Such amazing wisdom,
Right.
Chris Ishwarananda. Maybe you can wrap up by sharing a little about how that name came to be, and and how, yeah,
uh,
how you became the new version of yourself as Ishwarananda. How'd that happen?
uh, I mean, it really has just been this constant process of transformation, a constant process of like disidentification with what's not real.
Yeah.
Um, honestly, the name Ishwarananda, which Ishwara is a gentle form of Shiva, and Ananda stands for bliss, and in the Guru Gita is a chant to Shiva. So Ishwarananda just kind of it it's a name that is still in the process of being integrated and sustained. Uh, um, but the being like endowed with this identification happened when we were in the Himalayas, and I get chills just thinking about it. And it almost makes me want to cry. We were in the Himalayas, and if you've ever driven through the Himalayas, there's landslides all over the place, and it's really hard to kind of like navigate some of these landslides, and so we get stuck behind a landslide as we're on our way to Kedarnath, had to turn around and we're going to go back to the hotel. And then there was another landslide. So we're
Uh-oh.
now, and these, yeah, we're now in this spot on the Himalayas, stuck between two landslides. Then we find this one, like, not a gas station, but it was kind of like a convenience store that was overseeing the Ganges. Oh, no, Ganges. Um, and, uh, and it was so divine because usually people would be kind of in a state of panic in a place in a time like that, but we were all like otherworldly peaceful and calm. And we were at that convenience store for, I don't know, 5 hours maybe. And since we were there, I just kind of decided like, okay, it seems like I'm going to have an hour to chant the Guru Gita. I might as well do it here. I found a rock overlooking the Ganges, and I chanted the Gita, and it was just such a sweet moment of when I got to the meditation at the end. I could feel the name being offered to me. I could
Mm.
feel like Ishwarananda kind of dropped like a drop of nectar from somewhere other than here. And when I could feel that drop of nectar touch this soul, 1,000 motorcycles start driving down this Himalayan road, and like the landslide was broken open, and the stream of motorcycles arrived, and there's all this. I went from this like deep level of peace to this incredible like, bam, you have arrived, you made, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
it was just this like holy moment. And that's how it began. That was the origin of that name being offered. And it
Wow.
wasn't, and it wasn't until I got back to the States that I told Ramakrishna about it. And I was kind of like, so this name kind of arrived, and like I was like, but I know that I still have more spiritual sadhana to do. I'm nowhere near any states of liberation. And he was like, Chris, you keep on going with that unworthiness story. I'm calling you Ishwarananda from here on out.
Good for
I need you
Ramakrishna.
to,
Love it.
yeah, I need you to own that with confidence because that was gifted to you.
Awesome.
And so he's like, the next thing you need to do is shave your head and offer it to the fire and offer your life to God. And that's here we are, continuing to integrate that name.
Amazing. Amazing. And what's interesting, I just find it interesting that that's a Shiva name, and then this like procession of motorcycles and all that power and action, like that's
Yeah.
such Shiva energy coming through.
It
That's
was
amazing.
intense. It was like a snake of motorcycles that like
That's cool.
engaged. Thank you
Wow.
for giving me the opportunity to share that story. I've only told it like once before.
Oh,
So
thank you for
thanks.
sharing it.
Yeah.
I think that's just so beautiful. So beautiful to hear about. And thank you for just being so open and willing to share about your journey and the good, bad, the ugly, all of it.
Right.
It's like
All
it's
of it.
so important to honor the whole journey. And I honor you in that process and the
You
work
too
you're
as well.
doing.
Thank you. Thank you. I honor the work you're doing as well. You're bringing incredible creations into this planet, and it's a privilege to connect with you on this level. It's really, really an honor.
You too.
Yeah.
You too. I'm just so grateful we can share these experiences and talk about these
Right?
things. And it's like when you think about all of
Uh,
the old times in our lives where
mm,
like would you have even touched some of these conversations? It's like
right.
so liberating in and of itself just to be able to
That's
talk
truth.
about these things.
Truth. Right there. That's
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can have
It's just,
another chat at some point. I feel like there's so
let's
much.
do
There's
it.
just so much to talk about, and we just scratched the surface.
Oh
Uh,
man.
but
I'm so excited.
if you have any desire to share your information with people, is there a way people can contact you? Are you offering public services or not really right now? Like where are you at?
Wow.
That if
That's a good
anyone
question.
wanted to connect.
Well, I guess my Instagram is creating calm underscore w.chris. I am in a couple weeks, I'm going to do another somatic breathwork workshop at a ketamine retreat. So kind of offering somatic breathwork, I feel this subtle invitation to come back open to offer privates. And so, I'm just kind of following the wind with that one,
Cool.
whatever the divine thinks is necessary. But yeah, creating calm with Chris.
Love it.
That's where you can find me.
Love it. We'll link to
Thank
your
you.
Instagram below. And thank you
Cool.
again for being here and sharing and being in this divine space together. And for the audience, thank you for tuning in and being with
Yeah, thank you
us
for
and
tuning in.
being sacred witnesses, to our journeys and this
Mm,
conversation. It's um,
mm,
we like have these conversations kind of casually, but it's also really big, it's like a big deal kind of. And
I
being a sacred
agree.
witness for others is really important. So thank you
I
everyone
agree.
out there for
Yeah.
connecting with us.
Yeah. I send out so much love to everybody listening. Thank you.
Yes, as we end 2023, happy new year everyone. And
You.
blessings on your journey, Chris, next year as the school journey progresses. And I'm excited to stay in touch and hear how things evolve.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. I'm excited to see how it evolves too.
The mystery of
Cool.
life continues.
The dance doesn't end, it always continues.
Yes, one foot in front of the other. All right, we'll wrap up for today. Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time in the next episode. Bye for now.